All right, let's dive right in. We're going to tackle one of the biggest questions out there, but not with some abstract philosophy. We're going to use the practical, psychological tools of a guy named Alfred Adler to understand not just what gives life meaning, but maybe more importantly, what gets in our way of actually living a meaningful life. What is the meaning of life? I mean, who hasn't asked that question, right? But here's a wild thought. What if the question itself is actually the problem? For the psychiatrist Alfred Adler, asking this wasn't a sign of some deep philosophical curiosity. Nope, it was a symptom of something else entirely. So here's Adler's big, kind of controversial idea. Think about it. When you're genuinely happy, when you're engaged in something you love, you don't stop and ask, hey, what's the point of all this? You're just too busy living it. He believed this huge question only really pops into our heads when we feel beaten down. It's less of a philosophical puzzle and more like a distress signal. Okay, so if asking the question comes from a place of struggle, then what's the answer? Well, Adler's take is refreshingly simple. You don't find the meaning of life like it's some hidden treasure. You create it. He argued that every single one of us has a personal definition for life's meaning, and it's not revealed by what we say, but by what we actually do. According to Adler, there are basically two paths we can take. On one hand, there's what he called private meaning. This is a philosophy that's all about personal gain, about feeling superior. Then you have social meaning, which is, well, the opposite. It's finding value in helping others. And for Adler, here's the kicker. Any meaning that you can't share, one that doesn't make sense to other people, isn't really a meaning at all. It's just private logic. To show just how ridiculous a private meaning can be, Adler told this brilliant story about a cult leader. She predicted the world would end on a Wednesday. Her followers sold everything they had, gave her all the money, and then, of course, Wednesday came and went. The world was fine. When they confronted her, completely ruined, you know what she said? My Wednesday isn't your Wednesday. It's this absurd, untestable logic that benefits absolutely no one but herself. And that story leads us right to Adler's core test for a healthy life philosophy. It has to be communal. A true, valid meaning is one that holds up for other people and is aimed at contributing to the welfare of everyone. It has to have some common sense to it. So, how do you know if your personal meaning is a useful one? Adler argued that life itself gives you the test. It throws three huge, inescapable challenges at all of us, and the way we deal with them reveals everything about what we truly believe. That's it, just three. Three great tasks. Three fundamental problems that every single one of us has to solve. No one gets a free pass. So what are they? First, work. How do we contribute something useful and survive on this planet? Second, society. How do we cooperate with others and find our place? And third, maybe the trickiest of all, love. How do we build real intimacy and navigate our closest relationships? You see, you can say your meaning of life is whatever you want, but your actions tell the real story. The way you handle your job, your friendships, and your partner, that is the loudest and truest expression of what you really think life is all about. Now, if being successful in work, society, and love is the whole game, what's the number one thing that stops us? This brings us to Adler's most famous concept of all, the inferiority complex. It's like this hidden enemy that can sabotage our best efforts on all three of these fronts. Now, that's a term we throw around all the time, but Adler's definition was really precise. It's not just feeling down on yourself. It's a deep, paralyzing belief that when you come up against one of life's big challenges, you just don't have what it takes to handle it. Adler believed this complex often gets its start way back in childhood, usually from one of three situations. 1. Having some kind of physical ailment or weakness. 2. Being spoiled, taught only to take and never to give. Or 3. Being neglected and never really learning what love and cooperation even feel like. But here's the twist. People with an inferiority complex don't just walk around saying, I feel inferior. That feeling of being less than is so painful that it creates this unbearable tension, and it pushes them to chase the exact opposite, a feeling of superiority. And this is the critical error. All their energy gets diverted. Instead of trying to actually solve the problem in front of them, the whole goal becomes about manufacturing a feeling of being on top, just to get away from that awful feeling of being at the bottom. It's a psychological trick. Adler had this great story about 3 kids at the zoo that makes this crystal clear. Okay, so they all see a lion. The first child is just overwhelmed, feels small and scared, and immediately says, I want to go home. A direct, honest response to feeling inferior. The The second child feels the exact same fear, but he stands there, literally trembling, and says, "I'm not scared at all." He's trying to create a feeling of being superior to his own fear, even though anyone can see he's terrified. And then you have the third child. He goes even further. Feeling totally powerless, he tries to dominate the source of that feeling. He aggressively asks his mom, "Can I spit in its face?" It's a desperate move to feel powerful by belittling the thing that's making him feel so small. Now, what's so fascinating is that all three of these kids felt the exact same thing: pure inadequacy. But their personal strategy for dealing with challenges, what Adler called their style of life, produced three completely different reactions. You had retreat, denial, and aggression. So if all of those are the wrong paths, what's the right one? How do we get over this complex and build a genuinely useful meaning for our lives? Well, for Adler, the answer was a single, powerful concept that ties this whole thing together. The solution is social interest. It's a translation of a German word, Gemeinschaftsgefühl, which basically means a deep feeling of community, of fellowship with all of humanity. For Adler, this was the absolute core of mental health, seeing yourself as part of a larger whole and actually caring about how it's doing. And this quote from Adler himself really just sums up his entire philosophy. When you strip away all the jargon and the complexity, this is what he believed the meaning of life really is: to be useful to others, to contribute something to the human project. Ultimately, Adler flips the whole question right on its head. The person who's stuck in their inferiority complex is always asking, "What am I getting out of this? What's in it for me?" But the courageous, healthy person, they ask a fundamentally different question. What is life getting out of me? It's a massive shift from taking to giving, which leaves all of us with the only question Adler thought was actually worth asking. It's not about finding some abstract cosmic purpose. It's about creating a concrete one with your actions day by day. So the real question is, what's your contribution?